Welcome to Chapter 2 of The Hitchhiker by DreamScapeWithJake. Black asphalt with faded yellow veins, curling like an old scar across the land. The trees leaned over it like spectators who'd seen this show before. I stood there for a long time, engine idling behind me, my breath clouding in the air, even though it was a spring night. He didn't move. The hitchhiker just stood ahead in the dark, same as before, as if I'd never picked him up, as if time had looped. No headlights approached. No distant city hum, just me, him, and the kind of quiet that makes your bones feel hollow. I got back into the car, locked the doors without thinking, and didn't move for a minute. The passenger seat was still damp and indented. I stared at it, half expecting it to rise, to refill like someone invisible had just sat back down. When it didn't, I peeled out. I drove fast, too fast. No music, no radio. I wasn't ready to hear another voice. The trees thinned eventually, but the feeling didn't leave. That sense that something had shifted behind me, like a page turned in a book I hadn't finished reading. I didn't sleep when I got home. Just sat on the couch, lights on, shoes still on my feet. My apartment felt wrong, smaller, heavier, like the air itself had gained weight. Around 4 a.m., I finally convinced myself it was just a dream, a waking nightmare. I've been exhausted, maybe even dozed off behind the wheel. Hallucinations were common in sleep-deprived drivers, right? But the car still smelled like wet leaves and rust, and the seat was still damp the next day. I didn't talk about it for 2 weeks, not until I found the others. It started with an idle search online, a post on a local forum titled, "Ever pick up a hitchhiker near Riverbend Road?" I clicked it because I had to. The story was vague, full of typos and paranoia, but the details matched. A man on the road, hood up, no words, a cold seat, a whisper. Below it were dozens of comments, some laughing, calling it urban legend stuff, but a few stood out. The pattern was there, always late at night, always on the back roads leading out of the city, always a man alone, quiet, waiting. Some people picked him up and vanished. Others swore he followed them for days after. One woman claimed she started seeing him in mirrors, standing just behind her reflection. I would have dismissed it all, if not for what I found next. A photo, buried in an old blog post from 2008. Blurry, night shot, headlights bleeding across the frame. A man, standing on the side of the road. Same pose, same hood, same stillness. My chest clenched, because I hadn't told anyone what I'd seen. And yet, there he was. The same man from my passenger seat, staring out of a photo posted years before I'd ever stepped onto that road. I didn't tell anyone about the photo, because I hadn't told anyone what I'd seen. And yet, there he was, the same man from my passenger seat, staring out of a photo posted years before I'd ever stepped onto that road. I didn't tell anyone about the photo. I should have. Maybe that would have made it real in a way I could deal with. Maybe not. But I didn't. I saved it to my desktop, then stared at it for hours, zooming in, enhancing shadows, convincing myself it was just a trick of the light. But no matter how hard I tried to rationalize, I kept seeing that face, or the absence of one. And then the static began. It started with the car radio, just faint. At first a low hiss that rose and fell, like waves on a black shore, but it was only on that road, the same route I took that night. I told myself it was interference. Maybe the towers were weak out there, but then it bled into everything. My home stereo, my phone, the TV, always at night, always between 1 o'clock and 2 a.m. Sometimes it was just white noise. Other times I could swear I heard words, a voice, low male, not quite whispering, not quite speaking, just beneath the surface of the static. One night I recorded it, let the phone sit on the kitchen counter while I walked away. I came back an hour later to check the audio. At first it was nothing but the expected hiss, but then came the voice, "You saw me," and then "He rides with you now." I dropped the phone. It slid under the fridge. I didn't bother to reach for it. I left the apartment that night and drove. I don't know why. It was almost a reflex, like something was pulling me back, like he was already in the car again. Riverbend Road greeted me like an old friend with bad news. The city disappeared behind me in the mirror. The air got colder. The headlights dimmed, not mechanically, but unnaturally. as if the dark had thickened and was swallowing the light. And then, there he was, standing on the side of the road, waiting again. I didn't stop. I didn't even look at him this time, but I felt it. That shift, that awful tilt in the world. I looked in the mirror, and he was in the back seat, not moving, not breathing, just there. I slammed the brakes, spun the car onto the shoulder, scrambled out into the dark. The car was empty again, but the door hadn't opened. I stood in the middle of the road, hands on my head, heart pounding loud enough to drown out the world. I don't want this, I shouted. But the road didn't care. No echo, no wind, just silence. And then a voice behind me, not a whisper, clear, close. You never had a choice. I turned. Nothing. No one. Just a bend in the road. The same bend I'd seen in my nightmares. The one where he always appears. The one I now couldn't leave. Because when I got back into the car and tried to turn it around, the road only led forward. Every bend brought me back to the same stretch. The same trees. The same curve. There was no signal. No GPS. No city lights in the distance. Just a road. Just me. And somewhere in the dark. Don't know how long I've been driving now. Hours. Days. The fuel never runs out. The night never ends. Sometimes I hear breathing behind me. Sometimes laughter. Sometimes just the sound of the passenger door creaking open. Even though I never see it move. I'm still on the road. But I'm not alone anymore. And if you ever find yourself near a riverbend, if you see a man with his thumb out, don't stop. But if you do, make room. You'll never drive alone again. The seat beside me was empty. Had been since I left the last town. Still, I kept glancing over like my eyes hadn't learned what my mind already knew. The road unspooled through the dark, a ribbon of wet black that caught the moonlight in flashes. Riverbend was long behind me now, or maybe still ahead. It was getting harder to tell. Every so often I'd hear something, the faint creak of old leather, the click of a seatbelt shifting, a breath that wasn't mine, just road sounds, I told myself, just a car settling. But then the radio started up again. No one had touched it. A voice slipped through the static, soft, familiar. Keep driving. The words were calm, ordinary, but they landed wrong, like deja vu, twisted sideways. I turned the dial, but the static stayed. No music, no station, just that low hum filling the car like fog. And then I noticed a reflection in the glass, the faint outline of a figure in the passenger seat, there then gone when I blinked. I reached over, touched the fabric, cold, dry, empty. The voice came again, closer this time, not from the radio but from somewhere in the dark corners of the car. You left me there. The road curved. The headlights caught a sign half buried in weeds. Welcome back to Riverbend. My hands were shaking now. I hadn't turned around, but somehow I'd never left. The sign vanished in the rearview mirror, but its echo stayed. Riverbend, always Riverbend. I eased off the gas, let the car roll to a slow crawl. The road didn't look familiar anymore, but it felt the same, like I'd been here 100 times, taking the same wrong turn again and again. The fog thickened until the high beams were useless. It wasn't air anymore. It was memory, pressing against the windshield. I kept thinking about that voice you left me there. The words tangled in my head until they didn't sound like anyone else's, until they started to sound like mine. I remembered a night, rain hammering the roof, a flash of light, a scream swallowed by thunder, a road sign, a handprint on the glass, and then nothing. For a second I thought about pulling over, just stopping, letting the car and the night settle into each other until everything was quiet again. But the headlights caught movement up ahead, not a figure this time, but something flickering across the pavement, like the shadow of someone walking, even though no one was there. I pressed the gas, the engine growled, the tires hissed, and the fog split just enough for me to see the next sign, mile 0. A chill crawled down my spine. That marker didn't exist last time I drove this road. I looked to the passenger seat again, still empty, but the seatbelt was fastened. And for the first time, I didn't try to explain it, because maybe some roads don't lead anywhere. Maybe they just wait for you to come back. The fog thinned, and the road began to shine with that strange silver light, the kind that makes everything look half remembered. The steering wheel felt heavy, like the car was guiding itself. I didn't fight it. I just let it lead me. Up ahead, the trees leaned in, their branches arching over the road like ribs closing around the heart. The air smelled like wet earth and gasoline, and something else faint, metallic. That's when the sound came, not from the engine, not from outside, from inside. A faint tapping, steady and patient, like fingernails on glass. Tap, tap, tap. My chest went tight. I turned my head slowly, even though I didn't want to. The passenger window was fogged over, a single clear streak cutting through it from top to bottom. As if someone had drawn a line with their finger, I froze. Then, without thinking, I reached out and traced the line. My fingertip met cold moisture, and underneath it, warmth. The voice came again, softer now, almost relieved. You remember? And suddenly I did. The rain that night, the curve too sharp, the headlights that weren't fast enough, a figure in the road, waving, shouting, and me, too scared, too tired, too late. I'd told myself I'd imagined it, that no one had been there, that the road was empty when I closed my eyes, but it wasn't. The truth hit me like the first crash all over again. I hadn't left anyone behind. I'd joined them. The car slowed on its own, the radio flickered to life, and through the static came the faint hum of the same old tune I'd heard 100 miles ago. You're listening to 93.7, The Bend. Then silence, only the steady sound of the engine idling and my heartbeat keeping time with it. I looked in the mirror. The fog was gone. The road stretched out behind me, endless and still. But the sign at the side of the road didn't change. It stayed there, glowing faintly in the dark. Welcome to Riverbend, Population 1. The car idled on the shoulder. Everything was too still, like the world had forgotten to breathe. I stepped out, half expecting to feel the ground give way, half hoping it would. The air was thick, but clean, like a storm had just passed through and washed everything except the sound. The highway stretched both ways, identical in every direction. No wind, no lights, only the faint shimmer of the road's white lines, leading nowhere. I looked back once at the car, at the empty seat, at the faint outline of a handprint drying on the passenger window. Then I whispered it aloud, just to see if the road would answer. I remember, and somewhere deep inside the fog, something moved, not toward me, not away, just circling, as if the road itself had been waiting to hear those words. The sound of the engine faded as I stepped forward. The mist closed in, and the world turned over again. Thanks for listening to Chapter 2 of this story by Jake. If you're still awake, don't forget to subscribe for more bedtime journeys. Chapter 3 coming soon. Until next time, sleep well and stay in the dreamscape.